What if everything you've ever experienced, every sight, sound, and sensation, is nothing more than lines of code in an unimaginably advanced simulation? Think about it. What if the world around you, the people you know, even your own thoughts, are part of a cosmic video game designed by beings far beyond our comprehension? This isn't just the plot of a sci-fi movie. It's a theory that's been debated by philosophers, scientists, and thinkers for centuries. From ancient Greek philosophers pondering the nature of reality to modern-day tech billionaires funding research into the simulation hypothesis, the idea that we might be living in a simulated universe has captured imaginations across the globe. And it's not just a fringe idea anymore. It's a serious topic of discussion in both academic circles and pop culture. In this video, we're diving deep into 15 mind-bending theories that challenge everything you think you know about reality. From the mathematical evidence that suggests our universe might be a simulation, to the eerie parallels between our world and the virtual realities we create, these ideas will leave you questioning the very fabric of existence. We'll explore the philosophical roots of the simulation hypothesis, the scientific arguments that give it weight, and the cultural impact that's made it a topic of endless fascination. By the end of this journey, you might find yourself looking at the world in a whole new way, or at least wondering if there's more to it than meets the eye. So, are you ready to step into the rabbit hole and explore the possibility that reality might not be what it seems? Let's begin. The idea that our reality might not be what it seems isn't a new one. It's been around for thousands of years. In fact, one of the earliest hints of simulation theory comes from the ancient Greek philosopher Plato. In his famous allegory of the cave, Plato describes prisoners chained inside a dark cave, their entire reality limited to shadows cast on a wall by objects they can't see. To them, those shadows are reality. But what if they were freed and saw the world outside? Would they believe it, or would they cling to the shadows they've always known? Plato's allegory raises a haunting question. Could our perception of reality be just as limited as those cave dwellers? Are we, too, seeing only shadows of a deeper truth? Centuries later, the French philosopher René Descartes took this skepticism even further. He famously questioned whether anything we perceive is real, proposing that an all-powerful, evil demon could be deceiving us, feeding us illusions of a world that doesn't exist. While Descartes didn't call it a simulation, his radical doubt laid the groundwork for modern thinkers to explore the idea that reality might not be what it appears. Fast forward to today, and philosophers like Bostrom have taken these ancient musings and turned them into a serious scientific debate. Bostrom's Trilemma, for example, presents three possibilities. Either human civilization goes extinct before developing the ability to create simulations. Advanced civilizations choose not to run simulations, or here's the kicker, we're almost certainly living in one. As Bostrom puts it, if there are many simulated minds like ours, the odds are that we are among them. These ideas aren't just philosophical musings, they've shaped how we think about reality itself. From Plato's cave to Bostrom's simulations, the thread of skepticism runs deep, challenging us to question the very nature of existence. But what if science could take these ideas even further? What if there's evidence in the fabric of the universe itself that points to the possibility of a simulated reality? That's where we're headed next, into the realm of physics, mathematics, and the strange clues that might just prove we're living in a cosmic computer program. Now, let's turn to one of the most compelling arguments in favor of the simulation hypothesis, Bostrom's groundbreaking paper. Bostrom, a philosopher at the University of Oxford, laid out a trilemma, a set of three possibilities, that has become a cornerstone of the simulation debate. He argues that at least one of these three statements must be true. First, humanity could go extinct before reaching a post-human stage, where we'd have the technology to create simulations indistinguishable from reality. Second, even if we do reach that stage, post-human civilizations might choose not to run ancestor simulations recreations of their past. Or third, and here's where it gets mind-bending, we are almost certainly living in a simulation right now. Let's break this down. Imagine humanity as a video game developer. If we survive long enough to create hyper-realistic simulations of our ancestors, and if we decide to run those simulations, the number of simulated minds could vastly outnumber the real ones. Bostrom's math suggests that the odds of us being among the simulated minds are staggeringly high. As he puts it, if there are many simulated minds like ours, the odds are that we are among them. It's a bit like walking into a room filled with 100 identical-looking people and being told only one of them is real. What are the chances you're the real one? But what about the other possibilities? The first scenario, humanity going extinct before reaching a post-human stage, isn't hard to imagine. Climate change, nuclear war, or even a rogue asteroid could wipe us out before we ever develop the technology to create such simulations. The second scenario, where post-humans choose not to run ancestor simulations, is a bit more optimistic. Maybe future civilizations will have ethical concerns about creating conscious beings in a simulated world. Or perhaps they'll simply find it uninteresting. But if neither of these scenarios is true, Bostrom's logic leads us to the third possibility. We're almost certainly living in a simulation. Reactions to Bostrom's argument have been mixed. Some scientists, like physicist Neil deGrasse Tyson, have admitted that the odds of us living in a simulation are very high. Others, like physicist Lisa Randall, remain skeptical, arguing that there's no concrete evidence to support the idea. But regardless of where you stand, Bostrom's trilemma forces us to confront some profound questions about the nature of reality. Which scenario do you find most plausible? Is humanity destined to create simulations so advanced that they become indistinguishable from reality? Or are we already living in one? As we ponder these questions, it's worth considering how close we are to creating such simulations ourselves. With advancements in artificial intelligence, virtual reality, and computing power, the line between the real and the simulated is blurring faster than ever. Could we be on the brink of creating our own simulated realities, complete with conscious beings who believe they're real? And if so, what does that say about the reality we're living in now? These are the kinds of questions that take us deeper into the rabbit hole and closer to understanding whether we're living in a simulation. What if the technology to create entire simulated worlds isn't just science fiction, but an inevitable future? Think about how far we've come in just a few decades. Video games, for example, have evolved from simple pixelated graphics to immersive, hyper-realistic environments that can trick your brain into feeling like you're really there. Now, imagine what could happen if we combine that kind of progress with the exponential growth of computing power, artificial intelligence, and virtual reality. Could future civilizations, or even our own, develop the ability to create simulations so advanced that they're indistinguishable from reality? Let's start with quantum computing. Unlike traditional computers, which process information in binary bits, zeros and ones, quantum computers use qubits, which can exist in multiple states at once. This allows them to perform calculations at speeds that are almost unimaginable today. Some experts believe that quantum computing could eventually simulate entire universes, complete with their own physical laws and conscious beings. It's a staggering thought. If we're already on the path to building such machines, what could a civilization thousands or even millions of years more advanced achieve? Then there's artificial intelligence. AI is already capable of creating art, writing stories, and even holding conversations that feel eerily human. As AI continues to evolve, it's not hard to imagine it being used to populate simulated worlds with intelligent, self-aware beings. These beings might not even realize they're living in a simulation, just as we might not realize we're in one. And with virtual reality technology advancing at breakneck speed, the line between the real and the simulated is becoming increasingly blurred. VR headsets today can transport you to entirely new worlds, complete with sights, sounds, and even tactile feedback. What happens when these technologies converge, creating simulations that are indistinguishable from the real thing? Consider this: if we can create virtual worlds now, what could future civilizations achieve? The idea isn't as far-fetched as it might seem. After all, the universe itself operates on mathematical principles. From the laws of physics to the behavior of subatomic particles, everything can be described using numbers and equations. Some scientists argue that this mathematical nature of reality could be a clue that we're living in a simulation. After all, if the universe is essentially a giant computer program, it would make sense for it to run on mathematical rules. But here's the twist: if future civilizations can create simulations indistinguishable from reality, how would we even know if we're in one? The answer might lie in the very fabric of the universe itself. As we delve deeper into the mysteries of physics and mathematics, we might uncover clues that point to the possibility of a simulated reality. And that's where we're headed next, into the strange and fascinating world of quantum mechanics, where the rules of reality as we know them start to break down, and the idea of a simulated universe becomes even more compelling. What if the universe itself is a giant equation, a cosmic code written in the language of mathematics? This idea isn't just a poetic metaphor, it's a serious argument that some of the brightest minds in physics have put forward. Take Max Tegmark, a physicist at MIT, who argues that reality isn't just described by math, it is math. According to Tegmark, everything from the motion of planets to the behavior of subatomic particles can be boiled down to mathematical relationships. In his view, the universe isn't just governed by math, it's made of it. And if that's true, could it be evidence that we're living in a simulation? After all, what better way to describe a computer program than through the precise, logical language of mathematics? Think about the Fibonacci sequence, a series of numbers where each number is the sum of the two preceding ones. This sequence appears everywhere in nature, from the spirals of galaxies to the arrangement of leaves on a stem. Even the proportions of the human body follow the golden ratio, a mathematical constant derived from the Fibonacci sequence. It's as if nature itself is following a set of mathematical instructions, a kind of cosmic blueprint. But here's the question: is math something we've discovered, like uncovering the rules of a game? Or is it something we've invented, a tool we've created to make sense of the world? If math is discovered, it suggests that the universe has an inherent structure, one that might point to a programmed reality. If it's invented, it raises the possibility that our perception of reality is shaped by the tools we use to understand it. Then there's the precision of physical constants, numbers like the speed of light or the gravitational constant. These values are so finely tuned that even the slightest change would make life as we know it impossible. For example, if the strength of gravity were just a tiny bit stronger, stars would burn out too quickly and planets wouldn't form. If it were weaker, galaxies wouldn't hold together. This fine-tuning has led some to argue that the universe seems almost designed, as if someone set the parameters just right. Could this precision be evidence of a simulation where the programmers carefully calibrated the rules to create a stable, functioning universe? But let's take this a step further. If the universe is a simulation, wouldn't there be glitches or errors in the code? Just like a video game might have bugs or rendering issues, a simulated reality might have moments where the rules break down. Some scientists have even proposed looking for these glitches as evidence of a simulated universe. For example, quantum mechanics, the study of the smallest particles in the universe, is full of strange, almost nonsensical behavior. Particles can exist in multiple states at once, or instantly influence each other across vast distances, defying our everyday understanding of reality. Could these quantum oddities be signs of a simulation where the program occasionally shows its seams? As we explore these ideas, it's worth asking, what would it mean if the universe really is a mathematical construct? Would it change how we see ourselves and our place in the cosmos? Or would it simply confirm what some philosophers and scientists have suspected all along, that reality is far stranger than we can imagine? Whether math is the language of a simulated universe or simply the best tool we have to describe it, one thing is clear: the deeper we look, the more questions we uncover. And as we continue this journey, we'll explore another fascinating angle. What if the glitches in reality aren't just theoretical, but something we can actually observe? That's where we're headed next. What if the strange, unexplainable moments in your life, those fleeting instances of déjà vu, the eerie coincidences that seem too perfect to be random, or the odd occurrences that defy logic, are more than just quirks of the human mind? What if they're glitches in the system, tiny cracks in the fabric of reality that hint at something far more profound? This is the heart of Theory 5. The idea that our universe might be a simulation, and these so-called glitches could be evidence of errors in the code. Take déjà vu, for example, that uncanny feeling that you've lived a moment before, even though you know you haven't. Some scientists explain it as a misfire in the brain, where memories are stored or retrieved incorrectly. But what if it's something else entirely? What if it's a brief moment where the simulation stutters, replaying a snippet of code or revealing a loop in the program? It's a chilling thought, one that makes you wonder if reality is as stable as it seems. Then there are the strange coincidences that seem to defy probability. You think of an old friend you haven't seen in years, and suddenly they call. Or you stumble upon a book that answers a question you've been wrestling with for weeks. Are these just random strokes of luck, or could they be intentional design choices in a simulated world? In The Matrix, Neo experiences similar moments, like seeing a black cat walk by twice in exactly the same way. Déjà vu is usually a glitch in the Matrix, one character explains. It happens when they change something. Could our own coincidences be signs that someone or something is tweaking the code of our reality? And what about the truly bizarre phenomena that science struggles to explain? Objects disappearing and reappearing in places you've already checked, or moments where time seems to slow down or speed up. Some people report seeing time slips, where they briefly glimpse a scene from the past or future. Others describe encounters with doppelgangers, people who look exactly like someone they know, but who couldn't possibly be in that place at that time. Are these just tricks of the mind, or could they be evidence of a simulated universe where the rules occasionally break down? Pop culture has long been fascinated with these ideas. In The Matrix, glitches are a key part of the story, revealing the artificial nature of the world the characters inhabit. But what if our own reality has similar glitches hiding in plain sight? Have you ever experienced something that felt off? Something that made you question whether the world around you is as solid and real as it appears? These questions lead us to an even deeper mystery. If our universe is a simulation, how would we know for sure? Some scientists believe the answer might lie in the strange, unpredictable world of quantum mechanics. At the smallest scales, particles behave in ways that seem to defy logic, existing in multiple states at once or influencing each other instantaneously across vast distances. Could these quantum oddities be the fingerprints of a simulated reality, where the rules of the program occasionally show through? As we explore these ideas, it's worth keeping an open mind. Whether you believe in the simulation hypothesis or not, the glitches we experience, real or imagined, invite us to question the nature of reality itself. And as we dive deeper into the mysteries of quantum mechanics, we might just find more clues that challenge everything we think we know. So, the next time you feel that strange sense of déjà vu or notice a coincidence that seems too perfect, ask yourself, Could it be a glitch in the matrix? Or is it something even more extraordinary? Quantum mechanics is often described as the science of the strange, and for good reason. At the subatomic level, particles don't behave like anything we experience in our everyday lives. They can exist in multiple states at once, disappear and reappear in different places, and even seem to know when they're being watched. This bizarre behavior has led some scientists to wonder, could quantum mechanics be the smoking gun that proves we're living in a simulation? Let's take a closer look at one of the most famous experiments in physics, the double-slit experiment, and see how it might support this mind-bending idea. In the double-slit experiment, particles like electrons or photons are fired at a barrier with two slits. When no one is watching, these particles behave like waves, creating an interference pattern on the other side. But here's where it gets weird. When scientists set up detectors to observe which slit the particles pass through, the particles suddenly start behaving like discrete particles, and the interference pattern disappears. It's as if the particles know they're being watched and change their behavior accordingly. This phenomenon, known as the observer effect, has puzzled physicists for decades. Why does observation seem to collapse the wave function, forcing particles to choose a state? Could it be that reality is only rendered when it's observed, much like a video game only renders the parts of the world that the player is looking at? John Wheeler, a pioneering physicist who worked alongside giants like Einstein and Bohr, took this idea even further. He proposed what's known as the participatory universe theory, suggesting that reality is shaped by the act of observation. In his words, we are participators in bringing into being not only the near and here but the far away and long ago. In other words, the universe might not exist in a definite state until it's observed. This idea aligns eerily well with the simulation hypothesis. If we're living in a simulated reality, it would make sense for the program to conserve resources by only rendering the parts of the world that are being observed. After all, why waste processing power on things no one is looking at? But let's take this a step further. If observation plays such a crucial role in shaping reality, what does that say about consciousness? Some theorists argue that consciousness itself might be the key to understanding whether we're living in a simulation. After all, if reality only exists when it's observed, then consciousness could be the mechanism that brings the simulation to life. This idea has led to some fascinating and controversial debates. Could consciousness be a feature of the simulation, a kind of user interface that allows us to interact with the program? Or is it something more fundamental, a property of the universe itself that transcends the simulation? As we explore these questions, it's worth considering the implications. If quantum mechanics is evidence of a simulated reality, what does that mean for our understanding of the universe? Are the laws of physics just lines of code, subject to change or manipulation? And if consciousness plays a role in shaping reality, could we one day learn to hack the simulation, bending the rules to our will? These are the kinds of questions that push the boundaries of science and philosophy, challenging us to rethink everything we thought we knew about existence. So, the next time you hear about quantum weirdness particles behaving like waves, or the observer effect collapsing reality, ask yourself, could this be evidence of a simulated universe? Or is it simply another layer of the profound mystery that is quantum mechanics? Either way, one thing is clear: the deeper we look into the fabric of reality, the more questions we uncover. And as we continue this journey, we'll explore another fascinating angle. What if the simulation isn't just a product of advanced technology, but something far more ancient and mysterious? That's where we're headed next. What if the very thing that makes you, your thoughts, your emotions, your sense of self, isn't real? What if consciousness itself is just another layer of the simulation, a carefully crafted illusion designed to make you believe you're more than lines of code? This is the heart of Theory 7, the idea that consciousness could be a product of a simulated reality. It's a concept that blurs the line between mind and machine, raising profound questions about what it means to be alive. Let's start with the brain in a vat thought experiment, a classic scenario in philosophy. Imagine your brain is removed from your body and placed in a vat of nutrients, connected to a supercomputer that feeds it electrical impulses. These impulses simulate every sensation, every thought, every memory you've ever had. To you, life would feel exactly the same as it does now. You'd see, hear, and feel everything as if it were real. But in reality, you'd just be a brain in a vat living in a simulated world. This experiment forces us to confront a chilling possibility. If your entire experience of reality is being fed to you by a computer, how would you ever know? And if you couldn't tell the difference, does it even matter? This idea isn't just philosophical speculation. It's something neuroscientists and philosophers have been grappling with for decades. Some argue that consciousness could arise from computational processes, much like a computer program generates outputs based on inputs. In this view, your thoughts and feelings aren't the result of some mysterious, non-physical essence. They're the product of complex algorithms running in your brain. If that's true, could consciousness itself be simulated? Could a sufficiently advanced computer program create a mind that thinks, feels, and believes it's real? Take the work of neuroscientist Giulio Tononi, for example. He developed a theory called integrated information theory, which suggests that consciousness arises from the way information is processed and integrated in the brain. According to Tononi, any system that meets certain criteria for information integration could, in theory, be conscious, whether it's a human brain or a highly advanced computer. This raises the possibility that consciousness isn't unique to biological organisms. If a simulation were complex enough, it could create conscious beings who experience the world just as vividly as we do. But here's the twist: if consciousness can be simulated, how would we know if we're the simulators or the simulated? Imagine a future where we create artificial beings with fully simulated minds. To them, their world would feel just as real as ours does to us. They'd have thoughts, emotions, and a sense of self. But from our perspective, they'd be nothing more than sophisticated programs. Now flip the script. What if we're the ones being simulated? What if our consciousness is just a byproduct of some higher-level simulation, created by beings we can't even comprehend? This leads us to an even deeper question. If your mind is simulated, does it change how you view your existence? Does it make your experiences any less meaningful? Some argue that it doesn't matter whether consciousness is real or simulated. What matters is how it feels to you. After all, if you can't tell the difference, does the distinction even matter? Others take a more existential view, suggesting that the very idea of being simulated undermines our sense of autonomy and purpose. If we're just characters in someone else's program, do our choices and actions truly belong to us? As we wrestle with these questions, it's worth considering the possibility that simulated beings might not even realize they're simulated. To them, their reality would feel as solid and real as ours does to us. They'd go about their lives making decisions, forming relationships, and experiencing the world, completely unaware that they're part of a larger simulation. And if that's true, how can we be sure we're not in the same position? How can we know that our reality isn't just another layer in an infinite stack of simulations? These ideas push us to the edge of what we can understand about consciousness and reality. Whether you find them unsettling or exhilarating, they challenge us to rethink what it means to be conscious, to exist, and to experience the world. And as we continue this journey, we'll explore another fascinating angle. What if the simulation isn't just a product of advanced technology, but something far more ancient and mysterious? That's where we're headed next. What if the reason we exist isn't to live our own lives, but to serve as a kind of historical archive for future civilizations? This is the core of Theory 8, the Ancestor simulation hypothesis. the idea is that advanced civilizations of the future might create hyper-realistic simulations of their ancestors, people like us, to study history, explore cultural evolution, or even for entertainment. It's a concept that ties directly into Nick Bostrom's Trilemma, but it also raises profound ethical questions. If future beings could simulate entire worlds filled with conscious, self-aware individuals, should they? And if they did, what would that mean for us? Let's break this down. Imagine a future where humanity has reached a level of technological sophistication that allows us to recreate the past in stunning detail. We could simulate entire societies, complete with individuals who think, feel, and believe they're real. These simulations could be used to study historical events, test sociological theories, or even relive moments of cultural significance. But here's the catch: the people in these simulations wouldn't know they're simulations. To them, their lives would feel as real as ours do to us. This raises a troubling question. Is it ethical to create conscious beings for the purpose of study or entertainment? Science fiction has long explored this idea. In Black Mirror, for example, the episode San Junipero depicts a virtual afterlife where people can upload their consciousness to live in a simulated world. While the episode focuses on the benefits of such technology, it also hints at the darker implications. What happens when the line between the real and the simulated becomes blurred? Similarly, in The Matrix, humans are unknowingly trapped in a simulated reality created by machines. While the motivations in The Matrix are more sinister, the underlying question remains the same. Is it morally justifiable to create a simulated world populated by beings who believe they're real? Now let's flip the script. If you had the power to create such simulations, would you? Imagine being able to recreate historical figures, watch pivotal moments in history unfold, or even interact with your own ancestors. The possibilities are endless, but so are the ethical dilemmas. Would the benefits of such simulations advancing knowledge, preserving history, outweigh the moral cost of creating conscious beings who might suffer or question their existence? It's a question that forces us to confront the very nature of consciousness and the responsibilities that come with creating it. But the Ancestor simulation hypothesis isn't just about ethics, it also intersects with religion and spirituality. Many religious traditions teach that life is part of a larger, divine plan. Could the idea of a simulated reality fit into this framework? Some theologians have suggested that if we are living in a simulation, the programmers could be seen as a kind of godlike entity, shaping the rules of our existence. This idea isn't entirely new. Philosophers like René Descartes speculated about an evil demon deceiving us, while modern thinkers like Nick Bostrom frame it in terms of advanced civilizations. Whether you see the creators of a simulation as gods, scientists, or something else entirely, the concept challenges traditional notions of divinity and the purpose of life. As we explore these ideas, it's worth considering how they might change our understanding of ourselves and our place in the universe. If we're part of an ancestor simulation, does that diminish the meaning of our lives, or does it add a new layer of significance? Are we merely characters in someone else's story, or do we have the power to shape our own destiny within the simulation? These questions don't have easy answers, but they invite us to think deeply about the nature of reality, consciousness, and existence itself. So, what do you think? If you had the power to create simulations of your ancestors, would you? And how would you reconcile the ethical implications of creating conscious beings? As we ponder these questions, we'll turn our attention to another fascinating angle: how the concept of a simulated reality intersects with ancient spiritual beliefs and modern religious thought. That's where we're headed next. What if the concept of a simulated universe isn't just a modern scientific theory, but an idea that echoes ancient spiritual beliefs? Across cultures and religions, the idea of a higher power creating or shaping reality has been a central theme for thousands of years. From the biblical story of Genesis to Hindu cosmology's cycles of creation and destruction, many faiths describe the universe as something crafted by a divine hand. But here's the twist. Could these ancient creation stories be pointing to something eerily similar to the simulation hypothesis? Could a simulated reality be the modern equivalent of a divine creation story? Take Christianity, for example. In the book of Genesis, God speaks the world into existence, shaping reality through divine will. This idea of a creator designing the universe with intention mirrors the simulation hypothesis, where an advanced civilization, or perhaps even a godlike entity, could program a virtual world. Some theologians have even suggested that if we are living in a simulation, the programmers might be seen as a kind of divine force, setting the rules and parameters of our existence. It's a fascinating parallel. Just as God is said to have created the heavens and the earth, a simulation creator could design a universe with its own laws of physics and biology. Hinduism offers another intriguing perspective. In Hindu cosmology, the universe is cyclical, undergoing endless cycles of creation, preservation, and destruction. Each cycle is governed by Brahma, the creator god, who brings the world into being before it's eventually dissolved and reborn. This cyclical view of reality aligns with the idea of multiple simulations running in succession, each one a new iteration of a cosmic program. Could the Hindu concept of Brahma be a metaphor for a simulation creator, endlessly running and resetting virtual worlds? It's a thought that bridges ancient spirituality and cutting-edge science in a way that's both profound and thought-provoking. Buddhism, too, has its own take on the nature of reality. The concept of Maya, often translated as illusion or appearance, suggests that the world we perceive is not the ultimate reality, but a kind of veil or projection. This idea resonates deeply with the simulation hypothesis, which posits that our reality might be a carefully constructed illusion hiding a deeper truth. If the universe is a simulation, then the Buddhist notion of Maya could be seen as an early recognition of this possibility, a spiritual insight that predates modern science by thousands of years. Even in indigenous traditions, the idea of a crafted reality appears. Many Native American creation stories describe the world as something shaped by spiritual beings, often through acts of storytelling or symbolic gestures. These narratives emphasize the idea that reality is not fixed, but something that can be molded and reshaped, a concept that aligns with the idea of a simulated universe where the rules of existence can be rewritten or reprogrammed. So, what does all this mean? Could the simulation hypothesis be a modern reinterpretation of ancient spiritual truths? Or are these similarities simply a reflection of humanity's enduring fascination with the origins of existence? Some theologians argue that the idea of a simulated universe doesn't necessarily contradict religious belief, it could even complement them. If God is seen as the ultimate programmer, then the simulation hypothesis becomes a way to reconcile science and spirituality, offering a new lens through which to view the mysteries of creation. But here's another layer to consider. If our universe is a simulation, could there be others? Just as religious traditions often describe multiple realms or planes of existence, heaven, hell, and everything in between, the simulation hypothesis opens the door to the possibility of countless simulated worlds, each with its own rules and inhabitants. This idea of a multiverse of simulations adds a new dimension to the discussion, suggesting that our reality might be just one of many, each created for its own purpose or experiment. As we explore these connections between simulation theory and religion, it's worth asking, does the idea of a simulated universe change how we view our place in the cosmos? Does it make the concept of a divine creator more or less plausible? And if multiple simulations exist, what does that say about the nature of existence itself? These questions don't have easy answers, but they invite us to think deeply about the intersection of science, spirituality, and the search for meaning. And as we continue this journey, we'll turn our attention to another fascinating angle. what if the simulation isn't just a product of advanced technology or divine intervention, but something even more mysterious? That's where we're headed next. What if our universe isn't just a single simulation, but one of countless others, stacked like layers in an infinite cosmic onion? This is the heart of Theory 10, the idea of a multiverse of simulations where each reality is nested within another, creating an endless chain of virtual worlds. It's a concept that takes the simulation hypothesis to a whole new level, blending it with theories of parallel universes and infinite realities. And while it might sound like something straight out of science fiction, it's a possibility that some scientists and philosophers take seriously. To understand this idea, think of Russian nesting dolls, those beautifully crafted wooden figures that fit inside one another, each one smaller than the last. Now, imagine each doll represents a simulated universe, complete with its own laws of physics, conscious beings, and histories. Our universe could be one of those dolls, nestled inside a larger simulation, which itself is inside an even bigger one, and so on, stretching infinitely in both directions. It's a dizzying thought. If we're living in a simulation, could our creators also be simulations and their creators as well? Where does the chain begin, or does it even have a beginning? This idea ties directly into the concept of the multiverse, a theory in physics that suggests our universe is just one of many, each with its own unique properties. Some versions of the multiverse theory propose that every possible outcome of every event exists in a separate universe. For example, in one universe, you might have chosen a different career path, while in another, humanity never evolved at all. If the multiverse exists, could it also be filled with simulations, each one a self-contained reality running its own version of existence? And if so, how would we ever know where we fit into the grand scheme of things? Let's take this a step further. If our universe is a simulation within a multiverse of simulations, what would it mean to discover that truth? Imagine waking up one day to find out that everything you've ever known, your memories, your relationships, your sense of self, is just one layer in an infinite stack of realities. Would it change how you live your life? Would it make your experiences feel less real, or would it add a new layer of meaning to them? It's a question that challenges us to rethink not just the nature of reality, but the value we place on our own existence. But here's where it gets even more intriguing. If we're living in a simulation, could we one day create our own? With advancements in artificial intelligence, virtual reality, and computing power, we're already on the path to building immersive digital worlds. What happens when those worlds become so advanced that they're indistinguishable from reality? Could we become the creators of our own nested simulations, continuing the chain of virtual realities? And if we did, would the beings in those simulations ever realize they're part of a larger program? This idea of nested simulations raises profound questions about the nature of existence and our place within it. Are we at the top of the chain, the original creators of all simulations? Or are we somewhere in the middle, both creators and creations, living in a reality that's simultaneously real and simulated? And if the chain is infinite, does it even matter where we are? These questions might not have clear answers, but they invite us to think deeply about the possibilities and the mysteries of a multiverse filled with simulations. As we explore these ideas, it's worth considering how they might change our understanding of the universe. If reality is a series of nested simulations, what does that say about the nature of existence? Are we part of an endless cycle of creation, or is there something more fundamental at play? These are the kinds of questions that push the boundaries of science, philosophy, and imagination, challenging us to see the world and ourselves in a whole new way. And as we continue this journey, we'll turn our attention to another fascinating angle. What if the simulation isn't just a product of technology or a multiverse, but something even more extraordinary? That's where we're headed next. What if the power to create entire worlds came with a moral responsibility we're not prepared to handle? This is the heart of Theory 11, the ethical dilemmas of creating simulations. Imagine a future where we've developed the technology to build hyper-realistic virtual worlds, complete with conscious beings who think, feel, and believe they're real. It's a staggering achievement, but it also raises profound questions. Is it ethical to create beings who might suffer, question their existence, or even rebel against their creators? And if we decide to shut down a simulation, what happens to the lives inside it? These aren't just hypotheticals, they're questions that could define the future of humanity. Let's start with a thought experiment. Suppose you're the creator of a simulation filled with conscious beings. One day, you decide to turn off the program. What happens to the people inside? Do they simply cease to exist, or is shutting down a simulation akin to ending countless lives? Ethicists have debated this question for years. Some argue that if the beings in the simulation are truly conscious, then terminating it would be morally equivalent to genocide. Others suggest that since these beings are artificial, their lives don't hold the same moral weight as biological ones. But here's the problem. If the simulated beings can't tell the difference between their reality and ours, does that distinction even matter? This dilemma isn't just theoretical, it's something we're already grappling with in smaller ways. Take artificial intelligence, for example. As AI becomes more advanced, we're starting to see systems that can mimic human emotions, hold conversations, and even express desires. If we create an AI that appears to be conscious, do we have a moral obligation to treat it as such? Or is it just a sophisticated program, no different from a toaster or a car? These questions become even more urgent when we consider the possibility of creating fully simulated minds. If we can't agree on the ethics of AI, how will we handle the moral complexities of simulated consciousness? Now, let's flip the script. If we're living in a simulation, how would we feel about our creators? Would we resent them for designing a world with suffering, inequality, and imperfection? Or would we accept our existence as part of a larger experiment, even if it means we're not real in the traditional sense? Some philosophers argue that the very act of creating a simulation with conscious beings is inherently unethical, as it imposes existence on beings who didn't consent to it. Others suggest that if the simulation provides a meaningful existence, the ethical concerns might be outweighed by the benefits. But who gets to decide what's meaningful, the creators or the created? These questions don't have easy answers, but they force us to confront the moral implications of playing God. If we had the power to create simulations, would we use it responsibly? Or would we repeat the mistakes of our own creators if they exist? And if we're living in a simulation, how should we feel about the beings who designed our reality? These are the kinds of questions that blur the line between science, philosophy, and ethics, challenging us to think deeply about the nature of existence and our responsibilities as creators or creations. As we wrestle with these ideas, it's worth considering how we might test the simulation hypothesis. Could we find evidence that proves or disproves whether we're living in a simulated reality? Some scientists have proposed looking for glitches in the fabric of the universe, like anomalies in the laws of physics or patterns in the cosmic microwave background radiation. Others suggest that quantum mechanics, with its strange, unpredictable behavior, might hold the key. If we're living in a simulation, these glitches could be the fingerprints of the program, revealing the limits of the code that governs our reality. But here's the twist. Even if we find evidence of a simulation, would it change how we live our lives? Would knowing the truth make our experiences less meaningful? Or would it give us a new perspective on the nature of existence? These are the kinds of questions that push the boundaries of science and philosophy, challenging us to rethink everything we thought we knew about reality. And as we continue this journey, we'll explore another fascinating angle. What if the simulation isn't just a product of technology or ethics, but something even more extraordinary? That's where we're headed next. What if we could find proof that our universe is a simulation, not just through philosophical arguments or thought experiments, but through actual, measurable evidence? This is the heart of Theory 12, the scientific search for clues that might reveal the true nature of reality. While the simulation hypothesis often feels like a speculative idea, some physicists and researchers are taking it seriously, and they're designing experiments to test it. From searching for pixelation in the fabric of space-time to analyzing anomalies in cosmic rays, these efforts aim to uncover whether we're living in a programmed reality. But how exactly do you test something as vast and complex as the universe itself? One of the most intriguing proposals comes from physicist Silas Bean and his team. They suggest that if our universe is a simulation, it might have a kind of resolution limit, much like a video game. In a game, the world appears smooth and continuous, but if you zoom in far enough, you'll see the pixels, the tiny building blocks that make up the image. Bean argues that space-time itself might have a similar structure, with a fundamental limit to how small distances can be. This limit, known as the Planck length, is already a concept in physics, representing the smallest possible unit of space. But if the universe is a simulation, this limit could act like a pixel, revealing the underlying code of reality. The challenge, detecting these pixels, would require technology far beyond what we currently have. Still, the idea is fascinating. If we could find evidence of pixelation in space-time, it might be the smoking gun that proves we're living in a simulation. Another area of research focuses on cosmic rays, high-energy particles that travel through space and occasionally collide with Earth's atmosphere. Some scientists have proposed that if the universe is a simulation, these cosmic rays might behave in unusual ways. For example, they could exhibit patterns or anomalies that don't align with our current understanding of physics. These irregularities might be signs of the simulation's programming, like glitches in a video game. While no definitive evidence has been found yet, the search continues, with researchers analyzing data from particle accelerators and cosmic ray detectors for any hints of something off. But let's take a step back. What would it mean if we actually found evidence of a simulated universe? Imagine waking up one day to the news that scientists have discovered undeniable proof that reality is a program. How would that change the way we see ourselves and the world around us? Some might feel a sense of existential dread, realizing that their lives are part of a grand experiment. Others might see it as an opportunity, a chance to understand the true nature of existence and perhaps even interact with the programmers. And then there are those who might shrug it off, arguing that even if reality is a simulation, it doesn't change the fact that our experiences feel real to us. After all, does it matter if the world is made of atoms or algorithms, as long as we can live, love, and explore? As we ponder these questions, it's worth considering another possibility. What if reality isn't a simulation at all, but something even stranger? What if the universe we perceive is a kind of collective hallucination, shaped by our minds and shared experiences? This idea, often associated with philosophical idealism, suggests that reality is fundamentally mental, not physical. In other words, the world exists because we perceive it, not the other way around. It's a concept that blurs the line between science and philosophy, challenging us to rethink what we know about existence itself. So, what do you think? If scientists found evidence that we're living in a simulation, would it change how you see the world? Or would you continue living your life as usual, knowing that even if reality is a program, it's the only one we've got? These are the kinds of questions that push the boundaries of science, philosophy, and imagination, inviting us to explore the mysteries of existence in ways we never thought possible. And as we continue this journey, we'll turn our attention to another fascinating angle. what if the simulation isn't just a product of technology or science, but something even more extraordinary? That's where we're headed next. What if the world around us isn't a simulation or a physical reality, but something even stranger, a collective hallucination, a shared dream created by our minds? This is the essence of Theory 13, the idea that reality itself might be a kind of mental construct shaped by our perceptions and experiences. It's a concept that blurs the line between science and philosophy, challenging us to rethink what we know about existence. But how could something as solid and tangible as the world we live in be nothing more than a hallucination? And if it is, does that make it any less real? Let's start with the brain. Neuroscience tells us that everything we experience, every sight, sound, and sensation, is filtered through our minds. When you look at a tree, for example, your eyes don't actually see the tree. Instead, they send signals to your brain, which interprets those signals and creates the experience of seeing. In a very real sense, the tree you perceive is a mental construct, a representation of the world created by your brain. This process happens so seamlessly that we rarely stop to think about it, but it raises a fascinating question. If our perception of reality is just a mental model, how do we know it matches the real world? And what if it doesn't? This idea isn't just theoretical, it's something psychologists have studied for decades. Take the phenomenon of pareidolia, for example. This is the tendency to see patterns or familiar shapes in random stimuli, like seeing a face in the clouds or a figure in the shadows. It's a reminder that our brains are constantly interpreting the world, filling in gaps and making connections, even when there's no objective reality to back them up. Similarly, optical illusions demonstrate how easily our perception can be tricked, showing that what we see isn't always what's really there. These examples suggest that our experience of reality is far more subjective than we might think. But let's take this a step further. If reality is a mental construct, could it also be a shared one? Could the world we perceive be a kind of collective hallucination, shaped by the combined minds of everyone around us? This idea aligns with the concept of consensus reality, the idea that our shared understanding of the world is shaped by social and cultural norms. For example, we all agree that a chair is a chair, but that agreement is based on a shared mental framework, not some objective truth. If enough people believe something is real, does that make it real? And if so, what happens when those beliefs change? This brings us to an intriguing intersection with simulation theory. If reality is a collective hallucination, could it also be a simulation? After all, both ideas suggest that the world we experience isn't the ultimate reality, but something constructed whether by our minds or by a higher intelligence. The difference is that simulation theory posits an external creator, while the collective hallucination theory suggests that we're the creators, shaping reality through our shared perceptions. But here's the twist: if reality is a hallucination, does it matter whether it's created by us or by someone else? Either way, it's still the only reality we've got. So, what does this mean for our understanding of existence? If reality is a mental construct, does that make it any less meaningful? Some argue that it doesn't. After all, even if the world is a hallucination, it's one we all share. Our experiences, relationships, and emotions are still real to us, regardless of their ultimate nature. Others take a more existential view, suggesting that the idea of a hallucinated reality undermines our sense of purpose. If the world is just a mental projection, does anything truly matter? These questions don't have easy answers, but they invite us to think deeply about the nature of reality and our place within it. As we explore these ideas, it's worth considering whether we'll ever know the truth. Could we one day prove that reality is a collective hallucination, or is it something we'll always wonder about? Some philosophers argue that the nature of reality might be fundamentally unknowable, a mystery that lies beyond the limits of human understanding. And if that's the case, does it change how we live our lives? Whether reality is a simulation, a hallucination, or something else entirely, one thing is clear: the world we experience is the only one we have. And as long as we're here, we might as well make the most of it. So, what do you think? If reality is a collective hallucination, does that make it any less real? Or does it simply add another layer to the mystery of existence? As we continue this journey, we'll turn our attention to another fascinating angle. What if the truth about reality is something we're not meant to know? That's where we're headed next. What if the true nature of reality is something our minds simply aren't equipped to understand? This is the core of Theory 14, the idea that the limits of human understanding might prevent us from ever knowing whether we're living in a simulation or what reality truly is. Our brains evolved to help us survive in a world of predators, prey, and physical objects, not to unravel the deepest mysteries of existence. Could it be that some truths are simply beyond our grasp, no matter how advanced our science or philosophy becomes? Think about it this way. Imagine trying to explain the internet to someone living in the 15th century. No matter how clearly you described it, they wouldn't have the mental framework to fully comprehend what you're talking about. Their world didn't have computers, electricity, or even the concept of global communication. In the same way, our brains might lack the necessary framework to understand the true nature of reality. As philosopher Immanuel Kant once argued, our perception of the world is shaped by the structures of our minds. We can only experience reality through the lens of space, time, and causality. But what if reality exists outside those categories? What if the true nature of the universe is something we're fundamentally incapable of perceiving? This idea isn't just philosophical speculation, it's something scientists have grappled with as well. Take quantum mechanics, for example. At the subatomic level, particles behave in ways that defy our everyday understanding of reality. They can exist in multiple states at once, disappear and reappear in different places, and even seem to know when they're being observed. These phenomena are so strange that even the physicists who study them admit they don't fully understand what's happening. As Nobel Prize-winning physicist Richard Feynman famously said, "If you think you understand quantum mechanics, you don't understand quantum mechanics." Could it be that our brains simply aren't wired to grasp the true nature of the quantum world, or reality itself? Then there's the concept of cognitive closure, the idea that there are certain truths our minds are biologically incapable of understanding. Philosopher Colin Maginn has argued that just as a dog can't comprehend calculus or a fish can't understand the concept of flight, humans might have inherent limitations when it comes to understanding the ultimate nature of reality. If that's true, then no matter how much we learn or how advanced our technology becomes, some mysteries might always remain out of reach. It's a humbling thought. Could the question of whether we're living in a simulation be one of those mysteries? But here's the twist. Even if we can't fully understand the nature of reality, does that mean we should stop trying? Some argue that the pursuit of knowledge is valuable in itself, even if we never reach a definitive answer. After all, the journey of exploration has led to countless discoveries and innovations, from the laws of physics to the technology that powers our modern world. Others suggest that some mysteries are meant to remain unsolved, adding a sense of wonder and humility to our existence. As philosopher Ludwig Wittgenstein once wrote, "The limits of my language mean the limits of my world." Could it be that the limits of our understanding are what make life meaningful, giving us something to strive for and marvel at? As we reflect on these ideas, it's worth considering how they might change the way we see ourselves and the world around us. If the true nature of reality is beyond our comprehension, does that make our experiences any less real? Or does it add a layer of mystery and beauty to the universe, reminding us that there's always more to discover? These questions don't have easy answers, but they invite us to think deeply about the nature of existence and our place within it. So, what do you think? Are some mysteries meant to remain unsolved, or should we keep pushing the boundaries of what we can know? As we wrap up this exploration of the simulation hypothesis, let's take a moment to reflect on the incredible journey we've taken. From ancient philosophy to cutting-edge science, from the nature of consciousness to the limits of human understanding. Whether we're living in a simulation or not, one thing is clear: the universe is full of wonders that challenge us to think, question, and imagine. And as we move forward, perhaps the greatest mystery of all is what we'll discover next. As we reach the end of this journey, let's take a moment to reflect on the 15 mind-bending theories we've explored. From Plato's ancient allegory of the cave to Nick Bostrom's modern simulation Trilemma, from the mathematical precision of the universe to the eerie glitches that make us question reality, each theory offers a unique lens through which to view the nature of existence. We've delved into the possibility that consciousness itself might be a simulation, pondered the ethical dilemmas of creating virtual worlds, and even considered whether reality could be a collective hallucination. These ideas don't just challenge our understanding of the universe, they force us to confront the very essence of what it means to be human. What's remarkable about these theories is their diversity. Some are rooted in ancient philosophy, others in cutting-edge science, and still others in the ethical questions that arise when we imagine creating or being part of a simulated reality. Yet, despite their differences, they all point to one profound truth: reality is far stranger, far more complex, and far more mysterious than we often assume. Whether it's the idea that our universe might be a cosmic computer program, or the notion that our minds are shaping the world around us, these theories remind us that the search for truth is never straightforward. It's a journey filled with questions, contradictions, and moments of awe. So, what does all this mean for us? Does it change how we live our lives, knowing that reality might not be what it seems? For some, the idea of living in a simulation might feel unsettling, even existential. But for others, it's an invitation, a call to explore, to question, and to marvel at the mysteries of the universe. After all, whether we're in a simulation or not, the experiences we have, the connections we make, and the questions we ask are undeniably real to us. And perhaps that's the most important takeaway: the search for truth, the act of questioning, is what makes us human. As we wrap up, let's leave you with a thought from the philosopher Descartes, who once said, "I think, therefore I am." Even if everything we perceive is an illusion, the act of thinking, of questioning, is proof of our existence. So, whether you're convinced by the simulation hypothesis, intrigued by the idea of a collective hallucination, or simply fascinated by the mysteries of the universe, keep asking questions. Keep exploring, because the search for truth is what drives us forward, and it's what makes life so endlessly fascinating. Before we go, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Which of these theories resonated with you the most? Do you think we're living in a simulation, or is reality something else entirely? Share your ideas in the comments below. We can't wait to hear your perspectives. And if you enjoyed this journey into the nature of reality, don't forget to subscribe for more mind-expanding content. The universe is full of wonders, and we're just getting started. Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and never stop marveling at the incredible mystery of